The morning sun barely warmed the streets of Willow Creek as John Harper, a weathered man in his late 70s, stepped into First Horizon Bank. His faded jacket bore a single patch, Vietnam Veteran. In his pocket, a worn VA card and a challenge coin, etched with a bald eagle, rested quietly. John wasn't here for glory, just $500 from an old account to fix his granddaughter's car. The bank hummed with routine, tellers typing, customers murmuring. John waited in line, his cane tapping softly, ice tracing the floor. His cap, brushed clean, sat low. No one noticed the tremor in his hands, not from age, but from memories of jungles and gunfire. At the counter, a young teller, Ethan, glanced at John's ID and frowned. The account, untouched for decades, flagged as inactive. "This doesn't add up, sir," Ethan said, his tone sharp. John's voice was steady. "It's mine. Hazard pay from 68. Ethan smirked, calling over his manager, Rachel, whose crisp blazer matched her cold stare. "Discharge papers this old?" "Could be fake," she said, eyeing John like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. Customers nearby whispered, some chuckling. "Another wannabe vet," one muttered, phone in hand. John didn't flinch. He slid the challenge coin across the counter. Rachel barely glanced at it. "Anyone can buy those online," she scoffed, nodding to security. "Escort him out." The guard hesitated, but John's calm dignity held the room. A woman in the corner, Sarah, a former Army medic, watched closely. She'd seen a coin like that before, rare, earned in blood. Something was wrong. She stepped forward, heart racing, as the bank's laughter began to crack. The air in First Horizon Bank grew heavy as John Harper stood by the counter, his challenge coin glinting under the fluorescent lights. Rachel, the manager, waved it off, her voice dripping with condescension. "We've seen this before, people claiming benefits with fake credentials." The security guard, a burly man named Tom, shifted uneasily, his hand hovering near his radio. John's eyes didn't waver, they held a quiet resolve, like a man who'd faced worse than a skeptical bank manager. He adjusted his cap, the Vietnam Veteran patch catching a stray beam of sunlight. Ethan, the teller, typed furiously, pulling up John's account details. "It's flagged for fraud review," he muttered, glancing at Rachel for approval. The crowd's whispers grew louder, some sympathetic, others mocking. A businessman in a suit snorted, "Bet he bought that hat at a thrift store." Sarah, the former Army medic, clenched her fists. She knew that coin wasn't some online trinket, it was a relic of elite service, one her old CO had shown her years ago. She stepped closer, voice low but firm. "You're making a mistake," she told Rachel. The manager rolled her eyes. "Stay out of this, ma'am." John spoke softly, "Just need the money for my granddaughter." His words were drowned by Rachel's sharp retort, "We don't hand out cash to stories." She motioned for Tom to move John toward the door. He didn't resist, walking slowly to a bench by the window, cane clicking on the tile. The bank's hum resumed, but Sarah's gaze followed John. In the back office, an older clerk, Mr. Patel, paused at the name John Harper on a faded employee roster, his brow furrowing. He reached for the phone, dialing a number few knew. John Harper sat on the bench, his hands folded over his cane, staring at the flagpole outside First Horizon Bank. The laughter from moments ago faded, replaced by an uneasy quiet. Customers avoided his gaze, their phones now silent. Sarah, the former Army medic, stood near the counter, her eyes flicking between John and the manager, Rachel, who was back to her clipboard, dismissing the incident. Ethan, the teller, kept his head down, but his fingers hesitated over the keyboard, sensing the shift in the room's air. In the back office, Mr. Patel, the veteran clerk, held the phone, his voice low. "It's Harper. John Harper. He's here." The line went silent for a moment before a curt reply, "Hold him there." Patel's eyes drifted to a brass plaque on the wall, engraved with names from Willow Creek's old military base. Among them, J. Harper, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army. The base, now gone, had been the backbone of the town's economy, its legacy tied to the bank's founding. Patel's heart sank, he knew who John was. Outside, Sarah made her own call, her voice urgent. "Sir, it's Sarah from Logistics. There's a veteran here, John Harper, with a coin, elite recon. They're calling him a fraud." Her contact, a retired major, didn't hesitate. That name, don't let him leave. Sarah hung up, her pulse racing. She approached John, kneeling slightly. Sir, you don't have to go anywhere. John gave a faint nod, his face unreadable, like a man used to wading through storms. Rachel, oblivious, muttered to Ethan, he'll leave when he's tired of the act. But the bank's glass doors were about to open, and the truth was closer than she realized. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly in First Horizon Bank as John Harper remained on the bench, his weathered hands steady despite the earlier humiliation. The lobby's chatter had dulled, replaced by a tension no one could name. Rachel, the manager, paced behind the counter, throwing glances at John, her confidence fraying. Why's he still here? She hissed to Ethan, who shrugged, his earlier smirk gone. The security guard, Tom, stood by the door, his posture less certain, as if he sensed trouble brewing beyond the glass. Sarah, the former army medic, lingered near John, her phone still warm from her call. She'd reached a retired major who knew the name John Harper and the weight it carried. He's the real deal, the major had said, voice tight. I'm notifying command. Sarah watched John, noting the way he sat, spine straight, eyes fixed on the flag outside. It wasn't defeat. It was patience, the kind forged in battles long forgotten by most. In the back office, Mr. Patel's hands trembled as he replaced the phone. The plaque on the wall seemed to glow under the dim light, John Harper's name etched in history. He'd overseen the base that birthed this bank, a fact buried in dusty records. Patel stepped out, catching Sarah's eye, and gave a subtle nod. Something was coming. 2 miles away, a black SUV sped through Willow Creek's quiet streets, its driver, Brigadier General Marcus Tate, gripping the wheel. His dress uniform was immaculate, ribbons gleaming, but his jaw was set with fury. Harper wasn't just a name to him, he was a mentor, a legend whose strategies saved lives, including Tate's. The call from Patel had been enough. They disrespected him? Tate growled to his aide. The bank was about to learn a lesson it wouldn't forget. The tension in First Horizon Bank thickened as John Harper sat unmoved, his cane resting against the bench. The lobby's hum had all but stopped. Customers sensed something brewing, their eyes darting between John and the counter. Rachel, the manager, tried to maintain her authority, snapping at Ethan to process the next client. But her voice wavered, betraying unease. Ethan's hands fumbled over the keyboard, his earlier confidence replaced by doubt. The security guard, Tom, stood rigid, his gaze fixed on John, who seemed oblivious to the room's scrutiny. Sarah, the former medic, stayed close, her instincts screaming that this wasn't over. She'd seen the coin, recognized its rare Eagle and Star design, a mark of elite recon units. Her call to the major had set wheels in motion, but she didn't know how fast. Mr. Patel, the clerk, hovered near the back office, clutching a file with John's name. The plaque on the wall loomed larger now, a silent rebuke to the bank's ignorance. Then, the glass doors burst open with a force that silenced the room. Brigadier General Marcus Tate strode in, his dress uniform a blaze of ribbons and stars. His boots hit the tile like thunder, each step deliberate. Behind him, an aide carried a briefcase, face grim. The lobby froze, phones lowered, coffee cups forgotten. Rachel's clipboard slipped from her hands, clattering to the floor. Ethan paled, stepping back. Tate's eyes locked onto John, and without a word, he snapped to attention, saluting with a precision that echoed through the bank. John rose slowly, returning the salute, his weathered face betraying a flicker of surprise. Tate's voice cut through the silence, low and lethal. Who dared call Lieutenant Colonel John Harper a fraud? The room held its breath, the air in First Horizon Bank turned electric as Brigadier General Marcus Tate's words hung like a blade. Who dared call Lieutenant Colonel John Harper a fraud? Rachel, the manager, froze, her face draining of color. Ethan, the teller, stared at the floor, his hands trembling. The customers, once quick to whisper, now stood silent, some with guilt flickering in their eyes. John Harper, still by the bench, looked at Tate, his expression calm but heavy with years of unseen battles. Tate stepped forward, his presence commanding the room. This man, he said, gesturing to John, shaped the recon protocols that keep soldiers alive today. Vietnam, 3 tours, 8 covert ops unacknowledged to protect men like me. His voice sharpened. And you questioned his honor? Rachel stammered, his papers, they looked outdated. Tate's eyes narrowed. Outdated? Their history. Like him.
Sarah, the former medic, stepped closer, her voice steady.
I told you that coin wasn't fake.
She pointed to John's pocket, where the Eagle and Star relic rested.
Tate nodded, his aide opening the briefcase to reveal a file marked classified.
Inside, a photo of a younger John Harper, citations, and a matching coin.
Tate placed it on the counter. This bank stands on land he secured.
His account funded its first loans.
Mr. Patel emerged, holding the plaque's record.
J. Harper, he said softly, built this town's legacy. Rachel's smirk was gone, replaced by shame.
Tate turned to John, softer now.
Sir, why didn't you say who you were?
John shrugged. Just needed money for my granddaughter's car. Tate's jaw tightened, respect deepening.
He faced Rachel.
Fix this. Now.
The room waited, the weight of truth settling like dust after a storm. The silence in First Horizon Bank was deafening as Brigadier General Marcus Tate stood beside John Harper, his uniform a stark contrast to the lobby's mundane hum. Rachel, the manager, clutched the counter, her earlier arrogance crumbling under Tate's piercing gaze. Ethan, the teller, fumbled with papers, avoiding eye contact. The customers, once amused, now shifted uncomfortably, some whispering apologies under their breath. John remained still, his cane steady, his face betraying nothing but quiet dignity. Tate's aide placed the classified file on the counter, its pages detailing John Harper's service, missions in Danang, covert ops in Laos, lives saved through his strategies.
Tate's voice was steel. This man's account isn't just active, it's a cornerstone of this bank's history.
He pointed to the plaque Mr. Patel held, John's name etched in brass.
You mocked the man who built this place.
Sarah, the former medic, stood firm, her eyes blazing. You didn't even check his coin, she said to Rachel, who flinched.
The challenge coin, now on display, gleamed with undeniable authenticity. Mr. Patel spoke up, voice trembling.
I worked here when the base closed. Colonel Harper oversaw its transition.
This bank exists because of him.
Rachel's voice cracked.
We didn't know.
Tate cut her off.
Ignorance isn't an excuse. He turned to John.
Sir, your request will be honored. John nodded, his voice soft.
Just $500 for my granddaughter.
Ethan, hands shaking, processed the withdrawal, printing the receipt with a nervous glance. The room watched as John folded the slip, tucking it into his jacket. Tate's aide whispered something, and the general's eyes softened. Colonel, you deserve more than this. He reached into the briefcase, pulling out a velvet box. The lobby held its breath, sensing something monumental. The First Horizon Bank lobby stood frozen, every eye on the velvet box in Brigadier General Marcus Tate's hand.
John Harper, still by the counter, looked at it with quiet curiosity, his weathered face unreadable.
Rachel, the manager, shrank behind the counter, her earlier bravado gone. Ethan, the teller, handed John the receipt, muttering, I'm sorry, sir. John nodded, not out of forgiveness but because he'd heard apologies before. Empty words in a life of silent service. Tate opened the box, revealing a polished medal, engraved with distinguished service in John's name. This was meant for you years ago, Tate said, voice low but resonant.
For actions in '69, unacknowledged until now.
The crowd gasped softly, even Sarah, the former medic, felt her throat tighten. She'd known John was special, but this was legend level.
Mr. Patel, clutching the plaque, wiped his eyes, whispering, he never told us. Tate pinned the medal on John's jacket, the gesture deliberate, reverent.
You carried this country's weight, Colonel.
This bank should be your monument, not your battleground.
John's hand brushed the medal, his eyes distant, as if seeing jungles and comrades long gone.
Didn't come for this, he said softly. Just for my granddaughter.
The room stirred.
A young veteran by the ATM stood, saluting sharply.
An older woman, a civilian, rose too, her hand over her heart.
Others followed, not ordered but compelled.
Rachel's face burned with shame, she stepped back, silent.
Tate turned to the crowd. This is what service looks like. Remember it.
John returned a slow salute, his cane steady, his presence towering.
The bank felt smaller now, its walls humbled by a man who'd never sought glory. The First Horizon Bank lobby was no longer just a room, it was a stage for truth.
John Harper stood, metal gleaming on his jacket, his cane a quiet anchor. Brigadier General Marcus Tate remained at his side, his salute lingering in the air like a command to respect. Rachel, the manager, stood mute, her clipboard forgotten. Ethan, the teller, stared at the counter, his earlier smirk a distant memory. The customers, once quick to judge, now stood in reverence, their phones idle. Sarah, the former medic, felt pride swell in her chest. She'd known John's coin meant something, now the room knew too. Mr. Patel, still holding the plaque, stepped forward, voice soft. "Colonel Harper, we owe you more than an apology." John gave a slight nod, his eyes on the flag outside, its stripes fluttering in the breeze.
"Just did my duty," he said, words simple but heavy. Tate handed John the velvet box, now empty. "Keep this, sir. It's yours." John tucked it into his pocket, beside the challenge coin that had sparked this reckoning. The crowd parted as he moved toward the door, each step deliberate, his cane tapping a rhythm of resilience. No one spoke, but their silence was louder than the earlier laughter. As John reached the glass doors, a young boy, waiting with his mother, saluted clumsily. John paused, returning the gesture with a gentle smile, the first he'd shown. The doors opened, sunlight spilling in, framing him like a soldier stepping out of history. Tate followed, his aide trailing, ensuring John's path was clear. The bank stood still, its walls now witnesses to a lesson in honor that would echo beyond that day. John Harper stepped into the sunlight outside First Horizon Bank, his cane steady, the new metal glinting on his jacket. The Willow Creek street bustled softly, unaware of the seismic shift inside. Brigadier General Marcus Tate stood beside him, his uniform a beacon of authority, his aide trailing with the briefcase. The bank's glass doors closed, but the silence within lingered, heavy with lessons learned. Rachel and Ethan remained at the counter, their faces etched with shame, the weight of their mistake undeniable. Sarah, the former medic, watched John leave, her heart full. She'd helped spark this moment, her call to the major ensuring truth prevailed. Mr. Patel, back inside, traced John's name on the plaque, vowing to tell his story. The customers, some veterans themselves, dispersed quietly, their perspectives shifted. A young woman posted online, "Today, I saw what honor looks like." Days later, the bank added a new inscription beneath its founding plaque, "Lieutenant Colonel John Harper, U.S. Army, service beyond measure." No mention of the incident, no need, it was understood. John didn't return, he'd never sought the spotlight. The $500 reached his granddaughter, her car fixed, her future a little brighter because of a promise kept. Tate visited John's modest home later, sharing a quiet coffee, no cameras, no fanfare. "You reminded us what matters," Tate said. John shrugged. "Just did what I could." His challenge coin rested on the table, a silent testament to battles fought and burdens carried. Willow Creek never forgot. Every passerby saw Harper's name on the plaque, a reminder that heroes walk among us, often unnoticed, until someone dares to see. The bank's walls held a new truth: respect the quiet ones, they might just be the ones who built your world. Like and subscribe to honor their stories.